right. So good afternoon, guys. I'm always amazed that everybody complains that Yammer is not a secure platform. And then we put up a session around that, and we see that the attention is not the biggest one.
Yeah.
My name is Martina Grom. I'm coming from Austria, and I do Yammer since a couple of years. I think since it was acquired by Microsoft. And I really love Yammer as a social tool, as an enterprise social tool. But just because I'm from Europe, I also get a lot of security questions. And some of my customers from IT departments very often think, okay, Yammer is just a tool for an organization, but there's nothing to administer, there's nothing to monitor, there's nothing to govern. It's just a tool, we use it. And today's session will be around how can we be in a secure Yammer world and use it within Office 365. And I'm together with Dante.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dante Avery, and I lead the Yammer security team. Thank you all for coming, and I hope today we're able to prove to you that Yammer is a secure product, and you're able to take away some actionable items that you are able to execute for your network.
Yeah, and you actually work in the Yammer security team.
Yep, that's correct.
That's great.
Yep.
So what the questions we want to clarify today is how can I manage my Yammer networks? If I have more than one Yammer network, how can I integrate them and how do I deal with them? Also, then we want to tell you some real-world examples around governance and around Yammer governance to do that, and how I can secure my Yammer networks and work in a secure environment, and also which security Yammer provides from a security perspective when it is integrated into Office 365. And then we talk a little bit about how do I manage my Yammer users or my Azure Active Directory or my OrgID users or my Office 365 users, whatever you may call them. And then the last but not least important topic is in Europe we got GDPR this May, and we got a lot of questions around that, and we want to clarify why Yammer is fully GDPR compliant and why you can use, even as a European customer, Yammer in a very secure way. So let's walk you through our agenda. So as I already told you, Yammer is a secure network. It's an enterprise social network, and from a security point of view, I really like that Yammer brought enterprise social in many organizations from the very beginning on. And enterprise social, it was in the beginning when all that came up a couple of years ago, it was like, oh, it's just other social tools. People will post their cat pictures or their lunch pictures and so on. It won't be work-related. But the opposite is the case. Yammer is a tool which is used by many large organizations, and it needs to be secure to be in that way and to have it there. And we will also share some best practices around governance and compliance, and then we talk about Yammer and GDPR. First of all, to give you some context, just in case you missed the keynote from Murali and Steve where they talked about the roadmap and what's ahead in Yammer. And it was a very bold statement that the Yammer team really said what's on our roadmap and what will be next there. And these are important points that you see, okay, Yammer is continuously developed on, the team is growing, there are many people working on enhancements and so on. And some of the key points you can expect next year is that we get a web part in SharePoint, which is really pretty, that you have a really integrated conversation flow in your new Yammer SharePoint team sites. You get a Yammer tab in Microsoft Teams. If you are in the inner loop, outer loop scenario and just figure that out, and you have a closed group in a Yammer team, you can, in a Microsoft team, you can add a Yammer tab very soon to that. Then we get questions and answers, and this is also something some of my customers really like because they are looking for an ideation tool, and they want to use it as an ideation tool and mark best answers and so on, just to collect ideas within the Yammer network. And with that, you can also mark best answers, which is also quite important, that you have a conversation flow, and one of the answers might be the best one in your environment, so that other people in the network can refer to that. Live events. Live events are huge. And I really like that you have live events in the Yammer network as well. And that means it's very often used by executives that they post a talk into a live event, and you can watch it directly from Yammer and look at that and have stuff around the conversation view in there. And by the first half of next year, we will get a preview about in-geo storage of Yammer messages at rest in selected European Union data center, which is quite important, and which is most of the session today that we will talk about that. And next year, in the second half, we will have pin posts in Yammer. We also get people cards in Yammer, and people cards are also very useful, because if you are working in a multinational and you don't know everyone in your organization, people cards are incredibly helpful, that you see what is a person doing, where is she or he located in their organization, and anything else. And by the end of last year, there will be GA of the in-geo storage of Yammer messages for new European Union customers. This is also something which is important. If some customers start their Yammer and Office 365 journey next year, it will be by the end of next year. But that's just the roadmap, and we are talking about security, and Dante will guide you through the security journey Yammer had.
All right, thank you. So to start, I may be a bit biased, but this is probably my favorite slide of Ignite. So it shows a 5-year snapshot starting from 2014 to 2019 of some of Yammer's major security accomplishments. This is not just Yammer's security journey, this is my personal journey as well. I started in Yammer in 2013, and I've been either a participant or a witness to all these accomplishments. It was a lot of hard work, sweat, blood, and tears to make a lot of these security accomplishments happen, and it's something that I'm really proud of. We did a lot of hard work, working with team, having leadership buy-in from Microsoft as well, buy-in from the legal team also, and something that I'm just really, really proud of and glad that I can share this with everyone. A few things that I would like to highlight is, first, you can see year after year, Yammer is making huge investments in security. So once again, it's a lot of work that we're doing, but we are making the investments, and each year we're building and becoming more secure for privacy and compliance as well.
Yeah. I have one question, because on the slide we see there is a Microsoft data center in place already.
Yes. So to talk about that and kind of go back to 2014 where it all started, first when Yammer was acquired, we had our own data center. So it was a big move to move from our data center, Yammer data center, to the Microsoft data center. Also that year we worked on attaining ISO 27001 compliance. This was kind of like the foundation to start and to move on to the following years of gaining SOC 2, EUMC, and HIPAA, which made us own by default. So after each year, we continuously build and build, all the way up to like 2018, where we're making another big move from our Microsoft data centers into the Azure environment. This will allow us to have, in 2019, the in-geo storage of files and messages. Also, to provide e-discovery capabilities and to unlock other Office 365 security capabilities as well. So to kind of go a little bit further into like the EU in-geo storage of files and messages for EU customers, starting this fall of 2018, Q4 of this year, we plan to roll out in-geo storage for files for customers who use Yammer connected groups. Starting in Q2 of next year, we plan to have in-geo storage preview for a select few EU customers. Then the second half of next year, we plan to roll it out for new EU customers. And then for an undetermined date, we plan to roll it out for all customers.
Can I still roll on and apply myself to the trial?
So right now, right now it's closed for taking new customers for the preview, but hopefully, like once the preview is very successful, we then roll it out for new EU customers.
Great.
All right. So to kind of briefly talk about some of the security features that Yammer provides. So a couple of features that I think is worthwhile is one, the ability to monitor keywords, which I'll kind of talk a little bit more in depth about. The ability to configure security settings for your network and external networks. The ability to manage data retention, which is in Yammer, the ability to turn on hard delete, which when you delete a user, it also deletes the messages as well. Or soft delete, when you delete a user and their messages, it's not visible for the user, but you can still export the information. And one key note, you need hard delete for GDPR, which I'll kind of explain a little bit more later in the slides. And then lastly, the private content mode, which is off by default. Private content mode allows verified admins the ability to go through and look at private messages and files when they need to. So it's off by default, so that way you're not accidentally snooping and seeing things that you don't need to see. But if the need arises, you have the ability to turn it on and go and view information that you need to see. So to briefly talk about keyword monitoring, which I think is a really cool feature of Yammer. So most people know about the ability to monitor keywords, and most of the time you monitor like banned words. But it has a robust feature set. You also are able to use regular expressions, which then kind of opens the map to what you're able to be alerted on. You can also use keyword phrases, and then I'm going to do a demonstration quickly to show you some examples. Okay. So to set up keyword monitor, click on the setting button, and then go to network admin. 1 second, turn on Wi-Fi.
Or not.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, good.
All right. So once again, click on settings, go to network admin. Then underneath content and security, you have monitor keywords. So in here, you just pretty much, it's an open text box, so you can write like Ignite, Microsoft, or use regular expressions. So I'm gonna cheat for a second. You could do regular expressions for like, to be able to match on like credit card numbers, social security numbers. Maybe if there's banned words and you're afraid that people may use spacing in between to not get caught, you can use regular expressions to catch that as well. So let's take social security number. And it also matches on phrases as well. So in Yammer, whenever you create a group, it creates a message in all companies that group has been created. So you could match on has created. And then you'll be alerted once a group is created. Also, you can set up any email to receive these alerts as well. So for example, if I were to create a group, I should receive an email stating that the alert has been triggered, someone has created a group, and then attach the thread, and then I can click on the thread to go view the message and delete it if need be. So here's an example. The following message was matched to your network keyword monitoring. It has an example of what the message is, has created an Ignite test group, and then you can click and go to the message as well. So as you can see, it's a very robust feature, and It's so open to the imagination and what you are able to be alerted for.
Okay. I like the keyword monitoring because you can use it either for governance or you can also use it for security monitoring, like that you have an org policy and an organization policy that says don't put in social security numbers, credit card information, or any other things in Yammer and post it in the main thread. So other things which comes with Office 365 security and which are enhanced within Yammer is, and these are the three key factors we will talk about today, is as well that we have users and maintain one single identity for all Office 365 users. Just in case you didn't know, Yammer brought in their own identity system because Yammer is from the beginning, it was a freemium service, a basic service, and you couldn't have bought Yammer as a standalone feature, which brought in their own identity system. And Microsoft integrated that and says, okay, we have Azure Active Directory, we have people signing into Office 365. We want to have the same sign-in experience into Yammer, and as part of the integration, you can switch from the Yammer identities to the Azure Active Directory or org identities. And as soon as you do that, you can, IT administration starts beginning managing the identities out of Azure Active Directory with all the security features which come in there through that functionality. Could be MFA enabled by default, so people need to do that. You can block accounts out of Azure Active Directory. You can look at security accounts, so that means if, for instance, one of your users signs in now in Orlando and in 3 seconds from Hong Kong, there is impossible traffic because we haven't invented beaming yet. So, and that means for those cases and for those scenarios, Office 365 Identities brings a very stable identity management system, which brings a lot of additional security into Yammer. And I'm constantly working with my customers that they say, oh, have you turned that on already? And many customers simply don't know, and we will show how you do that because it's done with a simple click. And then one of the other features, and those people who know me from my other talks, I'm a big Office 365 Groups fan girl. Just because Office 365 Groups brings a lot of additional security and gives it's kind of an umbrella and connects all different Office 365 services into one. And speaking with customers, we always say, okay, use Office 365 Groups as a universal connector, as a membership service throughout your services. And you have the possibility to turn on Yammer-enabled groups, and this brings you a lot of functionality like naming policy, privacy settings. You also have your storage in the data center of your tenant location. So that means if you're a European customer and you say, yeah, I don't trust the Yammer team that the data is still stored in the US, you can have with Yammer connected groups, you can have the files already in SharePoint in the data center of your location. And the only thing which remains within Yammer is the message flow in the middle. And this could be an additional scenario because with that comes all the e-discovery compliance features which Office 365 provides. And then the third part is Yammer brings a very nice mobile device management experience with it, and this comes with Intune. And that means if you have mobile application management turned on within your Office 365 environment, which comes with Microsoft 365, you can add Yammer as a mobile app into that security system. And that means if you are covering that through mobile application management, people can bring their own devices, their private own devices. They sign into the Yammer application with their corporate account. And if they are enrolled in the mobile application management system, from that second on, the data within Yammer are protected. Because what does the mobile application management do? It brings a compliance policy on the mobile device. And the compliance policy can be set up by your IT department, and that means you can decide on your terms how much security you want to provide on the mobile device. So for instance, it needs to have a PIN code, the device must be encrypted, you are not allowed to copy data out of the Yammer stream in another third party not monitored application, like open up a file and store it into your private OneDrive account or anything else, so into applications which are not monitored. And that means also when a person, for instance, leaves the company or loses the phone or loses the mobile device, you can remotely wipe the data, the corporate data from that device. And this is also something which brings a lot of security in there and brings you a lot of additional value. From a compliance perspective, what else do we have within Yammer and what are additional Yammer features in there? We can set up a retention policy. Retention policy means you keep data in Yammer as long as you want and wipe them out as you don't want them. And also with Office 365 connected groups, you have the same scenario on your file. Set up a retention policy or even set up a deletion policy. I love to talk with my customers in Europe about deletion policies because it's kind of scary that the machine deletes my data 7 years later directly out of my SharePoint environment. And this is something what you can set up for financial reasons, for legal reasons, or anything else. You can export your user data, and Dante will show you from a GDPR request perspective how you can do that. So you export the user data, you can update the user data, and you can also delete user data if you want that. You can also track user and admin changes, and we talked about that. If you have Office 365 org IDs connected to your Yammer sign-in experience, you have a full audit capabilities of identities in the Security and Compliance Center within Microsoft 365 to get all the terms right. And you can audit them from there and see what happens to selected accounts and so on, and can set up alerts like I did that before. Also, one of the main points, and many customers just don't do that because they don't know or they don't want that, is you can set up a usage policy. And the usage policy is kind of, it's not an additional security feature, but it gives your users trust. They say, okay, what are the terms my company allows me to use Yammer in my organization? And I can set up a usage policy where I can say, okay, we are a law firm. We don't share any confidential customer cases within Yammer, but we share ideas and knowledge and anything else within our enterprise social network. And this is important because the usage policy is something people can rely on and can look at and know what the terms in their organization are there. So let's walk you through a little demo how that looks like if we have Yammer connected groups. And if we do that, and for that, so I'm switching to my machine. So, for instance, I'm here signed in as Enrique, which is a French guy, and he is signed into Office 365 through portaloffice.com, and he goes into Yammer, which is his favorite tool. He's new, he's in the legal department, he works there, and he's just a normal user in that environment. And what he does here is he sees in this environment, okay, there are the groups I'm part of, and there are some open groups and so on. And he says, okay, I want to create a new group within my Yammer network. And what he can do is he goes there, creates a new group, and says that's an internal group. And the thing is, when you look here, we see this is an internal or external group, and we have a naming policy which applies to my Yammer network. You see here, I get a group, and then I can type in the name, and then I have another additional application here, which means legal because I'm in the legal department. So They know Enrique works in the legal department, so he creates a Yammer group and he gets legal added to that. And that means he can now add a name and says it's Universal Studios for today. So he adds the name to the legal to that group, and you see, okay, he can do that. And the other thing he can do here is he can apply a classification directly into the group creation. So everyone knows this is a, make the group private. This is a private group, and classification is highly confidential. And that means, in that terms, it turns all that information out of Azure Active Directory, applies the naming policy, and also have the privacy setting, the classification setting, which comes from Microsoft Information Protection, which was announced this week at Ignite. So you can have that functionality in there. But what else do you have? So for instance, if the person now creates the group, and let me just do that, and I create the group, in that moment, an Office 365, a Yammer connected group, will be created as well. And you see it here on the right. Here I have my Office 365 resources, where I see, okay, from that I can simply go into my SharePoint files, I can upload my files, and so on. What else can I do? I just want to show you the naming policy feature, which is also an additional feature. So Enrique is a French guy, and he wants to use other bad words in his presentation. And we have also a naming policy applied there, which says, okay, you can't use bad words in the group creation process. So if you want to do that, you get also a notification, which means, okay, this word is not allowed in our network, and we have that applied. Don't put that on Twitter, please. So you can simply go there and have it, and we use it from there. And you see, I've now talked you through the Office 365 groups creation process, and we have here on the right side our SharePoint document library. And if I click there, I'm directly in SharePoint, and I'm in SharePoint in my European Union data center location. And that means from that point on, all my data are in a data center location of my tenant. And this is also something which is really important and good to know that you see that. What the Yammer team announced this week is also many users use that files scenario. And here on the files, you see currently we have different locations. You can store data still in Yammer, but you can also store it in SharePoint directly. And soon the SharePoint directory will be the default location where your files will be. And that means from a security perspective, the only thing which stays for now in the US-based data center is the message flow in the middle, as soon as we have that. And that functionality really helped me a lot with my European customers, that I say, yeah, turn on group connected groups, and it will help you to secure that. And the last part I wanted to show you is how can I turn that on? I'm just signing into another tenant. No, in the same tenant, but with an admin account that I can show you that. So I'm now the administrator of that tenant, and I'm signing in. Hope you like that I can type without hands. Mm-hmm. And what you see here is when I go here in the Yammer network, and as Dante showed already here, as an Office 365 global administrator, you are also a verified administrator within your Yammer network. And that means I have here the functionality around network administration. So if we go here, in the network administration part, we have here the security settings. And within the security settings, you see here, this is the enforce Office 365 identities. That means from that point on, only people which are present in your Azure Active Directory are allowed to sign in into Yammer. And what else can you do? You can also block users which don't have a YAML license assigned in there. Some of my customers use that because then from an IT perspective, you can kind of plan a staged rollout to your Yammer users and start with some of the Yammer users as well. And here you see the second option we have here is turning on Office 365 connected Yammer groups. And that means from that point on, you get that functionality in there. So you might ask yourself, what will happen with my traditional Yammer groups, which are not Office 365 connected? The Yammer team will get you covered and will convert them sooner or later into Office 365 connected groups. Okay, so back to our presentation. Hopefully I'm on the right side, yes. So next part is how can I manage my Yammer networks? And for that, we have another sample here. What are Yammer networks, Dante?
Yeah, so if you're in a state, so kind of like I guess a public announcement is, if you're in a state that we call one-to-many, meaning you have one tenant but multiple domains that have multiple Yammer networks, we're requiring you to merge those networks by October the 16th. Now, there's some benefits to merging the network. One is simplify administration costs, where you only have one network to manage, and you can use the Office 365 admin portal to manage those networks. Two, it makes it a lot simpler for your users to be able to discover content and know which network to be in. And three, you get all the cool features that Martina just mentioned and that was mentioned during the Yammer roadmap. So we're urging everyone to please merge your network if it is in that state. And Martina will demonstrate how you can figure out if you have networks that need to be merged.
Yeah, and this is kind of a daily task every Office 365 administrator should do, that he says, okay, as soon as I verify a domain within Office 365, I should check if that network, if it's an existing Yammer network, and if I need to merge it into my main Yammer network. And very often I'm working with a lot of enterprise customers, and they have tons of domains. I started with Office 365 where there was still a limitation of the amounts on domains you can add to one single Office 365 tenant. We never hit that limit, but it could be a broad list. And that means people sign in with different accounts into different Yammer networks. And those Yammer networks needs to be merged into one single network. The not so fun story is if you have a network which is alive with a lot of users and so on, and you do a network merge, what happens?
You lose that data in the other network that you merged into the new network.
Yeah.
You keep the users, but during the process of merging, we do ask you to export all the information if you need to keep, and then you could put it into your new Yammer.
Yeah. And that means if you have more than one Yammer network and all of them are alive, you need to take a decision which network to keep. There are third-party tools available that you can convert or migrate content from one Yammer network to the other. Some of my customers take the most used Yammer network and said, okay, this will be my main Yammer network, and I will merge all the other content into that one Yammer network as well. And the deadline is
October 16th.
October 16th. Okay, so how does that look like from a network migration part? You see here I'm in a demo tenant and I have one domain which is added to Office 365 already and is verified in there. And that means I go into my Yammer admin center, go into network, and then here to network migration. And here see a list of all my Yammer domains which are currently merged, and here see, okay, this is a domain which needs to be merged in there. This is an empty domain. So what Yammer does in the background, it says, okay, this is a domain where we didn't have any Yammer users in there. There is no Yammer network. And in that case, Yammer migrates or migrates the domain directly in your main Yammer network for you. Because there are no users there, there's nothing in there. But if there are users in there, you simply go to next. It won't work here because it's already migrated. But in the next step, imagine there's the domain listed with the affected users and also with the posts which are in there. And just do that with every domain you verify within your Office 365 domain migration steps. So next point is management of Yammer users. And just to give you some focus how that looks like, we have a lot of various identity management systems. And as I pointed out already, Yammer brought his own identity management system. So you had the Yammer identity, you signed in there with a separate password. And then we have the Microsoft identity. Microsoft identity means this is the login you normally use to sign in into OneDrive, Outlook.com, and so on. This is your private networks. And normally you use that for all the private stuff, Xbox, OneDrive, Outlook.com, and so on. And then there is the org ID. The org ID is the Office 365 sign-in credentials, which comes with Azure Active Directory. And then there could be others. So, for instance, you're working with an Active Directory on premises and syncing your users to Azure Active Directory. So it could be the way that you have an Active Directory on premises, set up directory sync all your users to Office 365 or Azure Active Directory, and then you have the single sign-on experience from them. And then you can also have your own identity management system, like Shibboleth, if you're in education, or Okta or anything else. It could be a lot of other systems which can connect to Azure Active Directory as well. And the main part here is as soon as you have it converted into org IDs, please also enable the Office 365 sign-in experience in your Yammer network. But also within Yammer, there are selected Yammer roles. And those rules mean you can be a user which is allowed to post updates in there. So a normal user into Yammer can create messages, like messages, upload pictures, yada, 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 all around that. And then as soon as the user creates a group, a Yammer group, an Office 365 connected Yammer group, or anything else, he is a Yammer group administrator. And that means within his group, where he is the owner now, he is able to add members, remove members, delete posts within his group, and so on. So he's kind of responsible for the group. And to give you a good advice here is always make two persons the owner of the group or the administrator for the group. Because if a person leaves or moves to another team and so on, a group could become ownerless. So nobody is responsible anymore and so on. And if you have set up an expiration policy on your group, it could be deleted by accident just because no one looks after that and after extension of the group. And then there are two admin roles within Yammer, and the one is a network administrator role and the other is a verified administrator role. And you see the main difference between those two is that the verified admin is always the Office 365 global administrator, and the verified admin is also the person which is responsible for user management, user export, and so on, and all around security and compliance. So next step is what are real-world scenarios for governance. I will just skip the slide because I talked about that a lot, is Office 365 groups and Yammer. What are the benefits for that? Benefit is the data in SharePoint are in the data center location of your Office 365 tenant, and this is a huge benefit, one of the best ones. You have naming policies, we have data classification, and so on, and we can also create and host live events if we have that enabled. This is one of the requirements we have there. And the guidance to implement that, we showed you, consolidate all your Yammer networks, clean up Yammer identities, set up Office 365 as the main identity provider for that, and enable Office 365 group creation. So next part is GDPR, compliance and Yammer. And I give the hard part to Dante.
Yes. So we received this question a lot. Can I use Yammer and be GDPR compliant? And the answer is a resounding yes. We did a lot of work to make sure Yammer is GDPR compliant and to help make sure the people who are using Yammer can be GDPR compliant as well. So quickly, Yammer is what is considered a data processor. We process the data on behalf of the data owner, which is the networks. And the networks have an admin who is the representative for the networks. So we provide the capabilities to the admins to execute what we consider GDPR data subject right requests, which are the abilities to edit the user information, delete the user information, and export the user information as well. Another common question we get is, do we have to have local data residency to be GDPR compliant? And the answer is no. Local data residency is not a requirement for GDPR.
Yeah. And just to say it again, local data residency is not the GDPR requirement. Okay? Security and data location are two different things. Good. What are the Yammer GDPR request benefits, and how is the guidance looking?
Yeah. So besides being GDPR compliant, you also are able to update user information, able to export their information, delete users from their primary network or their external network, and also remove data from other networks as well. A couple of quick tips. Be sure to set your network to hard content policy to hard delete. So that way when you delete a user, all the information is removed from Yammer. It cannot be set to soft delete. Also, when the user is removed from the AAD account, it does not automatically trigger a GDPR deletion. You will have to go into Yammer, go to the settings, and then delete the user. So for export, so just a quick overview of GDPR export. Some of the information that is exported includes broadcast information, which is the new live stream information, also files, group information, messages, message data, and also topics. For a user update, the user is able to update their profile either on Yammer or through AAD, which is automatically synced to Yammer. They're able to update messages by going to the message and using the edit functionality, and also are able to edit file content. And for GDPR deletion, we remove everything about the user. This includes profile information, who is the person following, bookmarks, topics, account activity, and what networks they're following. So I will do a quick demo, have a few minutes left, to show you some of the GDPR DSR requests.
So the main points from a GDPR request is also a typical GDPR request is a user asks, what data do you have, which is provided through the export. Can you update my data, which you can, or can you delete my data, which you can do as well. These are the three main parts.
Okay, so if you're admin and you receive a request from a user to export their information, just click on settings, go to network admin, and this part is a little tricky. So Yammer already has a functionality called export users, which export all the users' information from the network. That includes everyone. But if you go underneath content and security, there's export user data, which then you can export for one particular user. So you can either look up the user by user ID or just type in their name. Then just click export. You will download a zip file, which could contain multiple CSVs. And then when the download is completed, you will receive a Yammer alert saying that you're now able to view the exported information with a link to the exported information. All right, so quickly to delete a user, go to remove users. Look up the user by username or ID. Should pop up. I'm sorry. Okay. And you have multiple options. You're able to deactivate the user, permanently remove the user but retain their messages, remove the user, and remove the messages. And the final option, which is the GDPR delete option, is erase the user, which wipes out everything about the user. So just click here and then submit, and the user will be completely removed from the Yammer system. We do give a 14-day grace period, because once you hit that button and the person is deleted, you're unable to get their user information back. So you have 14 days to export all the information. And then also we send an alert to external networks as well, stating that, hey, this user is about to be removed from your network. You have 14 days to export the information or to take any action that's necessary.
Okay. So to make a quick summary around that, it's because we are already at the end of our session. So what are the three main parts you should take out of that session is please start with a single identity, enable that, a single identity, enable Office 365 groups, connected groups, and also set up hard delete to be GDPR compliant and to be able to answer the update and deletion request out of that. So given that, I hope you have a nice remaining Ignite. There are some more Yammer sessions you can look at, which are probably less technical, like today's one was. But I'm also happy to connect with you anytime. If you see me around, just ask me your questions, and we can talk about that. And also, if you have questions to Dante, he is almost every day at the booth and is also happy to speak about Yammer security with you as well. So given that, have a fun day and tonight at the Universal Studios. Enjoy that, and happy to reconnect with you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.